Idea for a sound?
An idea for a sound. This would be the accordion, the bagpipes, and the banjo. Let's try it.
Okay.
Guys ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Don't you ever do that again.
Oh yeah, that was so cool. We should try that.
Yeah,
that was really good. You guys
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, all
Let's
right.
do it again. I mean, 'cause after all, hot water looks just like cold water.
We gotta get out of here. We're being held against our will. We gotta get out of here.
That's the only way that it makes sense.
Who's responsible? Who did this to us? No.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think
We
that
need our
we
freedom.
shouldn't unroll that cord just yet. Sorry I'm late.
Wait.
Parked in this really
What?
I'm not as hot under the beak as I was, but, I tell you like they say, there's not a pot so crooked that a lid won't fit. Hot water looks just like cold. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just think that roll the cord. Water looks just like cold. Sorry I'm late. I parked in this really situation. But I'm not as hot under the beak as I was. But I tell you like they say, there's not a pot so crooked that a lid won't fit.
I can feel the company.
Hot water looks just like cold.
Did you find anybody for their share?
After all, hot water looks just like cold water.
Bus station.
After all, hot water looks just like cold water.
Yeah, I'll ask my mom.
I don't know what happened. I made my arrest. All I know is I saw a bunch of big things bigger than a pair of dogs. One of them come up to me and I wanted something I couldn't understand what he said, but it sounded great. And my response was, hey, I'll fold you up like a 4th grade love letter if you don't get out of my face. Next thing I know, I'm on the top of a cop car.
Music, it's a mystery. And here on the Mystery of Misery Work Farm, we hope to decode it. 3 scrapping young lads searching for the meaning of music. Crawdad, retired astronaut and ethnomusicologist. Oklahoma Slim, undercover unlicensed dentist and taxidermist. And Jake Leg Jake, rehab center tester and owner of Tiny's Fresh Crabs and Other Surprises. They join forces with rockets, paranormal gear, a cell phone, and an unending desire to learn 4 or more chords. On music, the mystery of Misery Work Farm.
We know that pre-Columbian America was filled with rich and sophisticated culture. There were large cities, religions, agriculture, art, dance, and music. But there wasn't a written language. There were ways of recording information, but everything that was made from things that could be found in nature. We have drums, fiddles, flutes, panpipes, and perhaps didgeridoos that we found in the Southwest. These mostly wood and hide instruments survived for a couple hundred years in the dry desert conditions. So we don't have any idea about what it might have existed before, or what existed for tens of thousands of years in the northern and eastern parts of the continent, where very wet conditions would rot most artifacts that would have been left behind. We know there was an extensive trade route between South, Central, and North America. We can see well-established roads on satellite images, and we have lots of evidence of traded items. In Central and South America, we have lots of examples of sophisticated bone, clay, and bamboo flutes. There's some stringed instruments and harps, but we don't know if these instruments are made by pre-Columbian America or if they were influenced by European instruments. Which is to say, we know there were rich musical traditions. There were dances we can still see today, but we've lost so much culture because of deliberate attempts by colonizers to erase the fingerprints of indigenous people as completely as possible. So while it would be untrue to say that the banjo was the first truly American-created instrument, we can say that it's likely the first instrument built in America with the memory of people from another continent. There are many African instruments which are quite similar to the banjo, but the real roots of today's most American instrument can be found in the West Indies. We can argue about whether it was the Bahamas or Haiti or Jamaica, but we do have early records, drawings, and some artifacts from the early 1600s of the development of the banjo being built from gourds, stick, hide, and gut strings by captured Africans enslaved on these islands. In many cases, the islands served as holding places for captured people from slave ships, as well as having their own plantation cultures. In Haiti, of course, there was the first successful slave revolt. While in mainland America, the Pueblo peoples staged the first successful revolt against their Spanish enslavers in the Southwest. Both of these cultures have been punished ever since. Most of us know the banjo is a humorous instrument, the butt of many jokes and a caricature of dumb hillbillies or cartoon black people. This is like so many of our European-American actions of turning innovations that are not from European people into comedy or ridicule, or else stealing those innovations and passing them off as their own. So bluegrass music seems dignified by well-dressed white men playing renditions of virtuosic American folk music, while the banjo in the hands of others is thought to have some element of ridicule. Like bagpipe music, many people actually like the sound of banjo music when it's played well. But there's a lot of evidence that in the hands of indigenous and African people in America, the instruments were not just for amusement, but served a deep purpose. There's been a lot of documentation of the use of redundant drumming at particular speeds, that redundant drumming shown to us by Warner Brothers Studios, that can alter a person's consciousness, induce trance and meditative states. We also know this was well known to indigenous African people. This is also why drumming by non-white people was banned all over the country at various times. We know it was more than just entertainment, and it scared us. more than just entertainment, and it scared us. We also know the interactions with spirits was a common practice in both indigenous America and indigenous African religions, and that becoming possessed by these spirits was considered an extremely high state of these religions. We also know that both cultures welcomed temporary spirit possession, but that the embodied spirits needed places to reside when not animating living bodies. In African religion, jars, bottles, either clay or glass were and are used as places where disembodied spirits might dwell. Indigenous Americans used items like decorated sticks, kachinas, or statues to serve the same or similar purpose. Musical instruments also have been used to invoke or provoke spirits into coming from the elements of water, earth, air, wood, or ether to commune with human people. The spirits mount and ride their human servants and impart wisdom, but it's common to believe also that these instruments serve as a receptacle for these spirits or gods, like jars or kachinas. So drums, and the banjo in particular, were sacred ritual objects occupied by the spirits and communicating through the instruments. Banjos started to be banned as well. Gourd banjos can be found throughout the Caribbean, the South, Appalachians, and Caribbean South America. The banjo may well have been the first American chorded instrument. Thus, it was the instrument that developed harmony, an era that can be heard in the rich spiritual music of the South and the Appalachians. During the 1800s, parlor music became a trend in wealthy households. People would collect instruments, pianos, guitars, flutes, some horns, and every collection needed some exotic instruments collected from other cultures or countries. People gathered together in informal performances and jam sessions in each other's parlors. They'd show off their musicianship, play and sing together, and certainly explored with instruments and sound. Probably due to this interest in amateur musicology, the banjo and banjo music found its way into white culture. There were demonstrations of Negro music by talented people from plantations, or the increasing number of free blacks looking to make some money. These demonstrations were known as minstrel shows. The word has a very negative connotation of exploitation that would later be well-deserved. But initially, these command performances by wealthy white people to see and hear black music from the plantations, rooted in the music of Africa, started the process of sharing black music and instruments with white culture. Race music became a phenomenon both before and after the Civil War. Some minstrel shows were comprised of both black and white people demonstrating Southern musical traditions and, in many cases, poking light-hearted racial humor at each other. They would put on blackface and whiteface and imitate each other. But then that shtick turned into more than the demonstration of music. Minstrel shows morphed into blackface mocking of black people and making fun of their music and the banjo. Blackface minstrel shows became an enormous phenomenon in cities from Atlanta up to Boston and heading into the West. White people started the tradition of stealing black music and claiming it as their own. In the meantime, serious musicians in places like New Orleans were developing and imitating musical styles on the banjo. Ragtime started as a jangly, syncopated piano music, which banjo and guitar players started introducing into their playing. The banjo, now equipped with a loud resonator, was the preferred instrument in horn bands and marching bands that were developing, especially in post-Civil War New Orleans, where military marching bands had infused a lot of horns. Banjos were loud and portable and could cut through the tubas and trombones and trumpets. The parlor version of Dixieland marching music was jazz. This was, generally, where a banjo and a tuba would create the foundation of a chord progression, while the piano and horn players improvised melodies. When the electric guitar came along, the banjo was kicked out in lieu of the newer instrument, and the banjo was regaled to the corridors of country music, which also was being taken over by white musicians. As we see even today, the attempts by Beyonce, Dom Flemons, Rhiannon Giddens, and others faced significant ridicule as they tried to reclaim the mantle of black country music. Beyonce being banned from country music TV, being made fun of by successful country rock players. But now, with the banjo at an all-time high, Most people who hold the instrument don't know that they're holding the first African American musical instrument that started as an enchanter and the container for the spirits.
I think you'll find when you take your mind beyond time and space to another dimension. A place of space, a place of grace, beyond all we've become accustomed to. For all we know, there's a whole nother show. When we cast off the bounds we're used to, I think you'll find when you take your mind beyond time and space to another place in another dimension. Another dimension. And when you're there, you just won't care about all the things that motivate